All right. Why don't we get started? I'll do a quick intro and that'll also give people time and then we can dive right into it. Hi, welcome everyone. This is another session of Stanford's Blockchain Accelerator kind of talks. Today we've got Keone Hon from Monad with us, co-founder and GM of Monad Foundation, and he's going to share a bunch of things kind of throughout his journey specifically, and his thoughts on kind of building in today's space. So we've got an exciting session. On the Zoom, we've got a bunch of the Stanford founders, so we'll be reserving questions for them at the end. And we've also got this on live stream. Um, but with that, why don't we get started? Keone, I would love to, I guess, hear from you. Kind of tell us, why don't we start with a little bit about your background and your journey into blockchain and how you ended up starting a layer one.
Great to be here, Gal, and thank you for having me. I'm I've been working for about 15 years now, and the first 10-ish were spent in the high frequency trading space, which is a super interesting and now probably much more well-known industry. But when I joined, it was a lot smaller and sort of a niche area. The premise is really about building really fast systems and also about building really smart systems, at least in some senses. We were pretty early to using machine learning. When I first joined that industry, it was 2011, and most of the state of the art was just linear regression. But then over the next 10 years or so, high frequency trading was actually a early user of neural networks and CNNs, RNNs, generally machine learning, because there's a strong incentive to make really
Yeah.
precise predictions. So spent about 10 years doing that. Ran a small 10-person trading team in the traditional markets. We're focused on the traditional markets, HFT. We started trading crypto, and then that kind of transitioned to our trading team merging into the crypto team at the company I was working at, where the mandate then expanded from pure trading to also researching blockchains and DeFi protocols and just getting much more involved in the space. And then I guess personally, I was also started getting interested in the technology of crypto and also the just the storylines, the narratives, crypto Twitter around 2020. So it was kind of happening in parallel. But then by 21, I was fully involved in the crypto space as a researcher and as an engineer. Spent about 6 months in that team, and then left to start Monad in the beginning of 2022.
Awesome. And when you were like, I guess doing like HFT trading, it was 21. Oh, sorry, let me mute all. Uh, Apologies for that. Yeah, when you were kind of working in the HFT space in 2021, like what, you guys were getting into crypto trading, like what was the fastest TPS and like what was the top of the line at the time?
Yeah, 2021, Ethereum was about 10 TPS, so a million transactions per day. I think the gas limit was 30 million gas every 12 seconds. Since then, it's gone up to, I guess, about 40 million-ish per 12 seconds. So it's changed a little bit on Ethereum L1, but still like kind of the same overall landscape.
Okay.
Layer twos are much more
Yeah.
prevalent now than they were in 2021, although Arbitrum and Optimism were live.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of a lot of the same like base layer stuff was there, but then we didn't have the proliferation of both Arbitrum and Optimism as like technology providers that were like providing their tech stack to like anyone who wanted to launch a rollup. That hadn't really taken off yet.
Okay, gotcha. So this is born out of like a really personal pain that kind of you saw in trying to do high frequency trading here. Okay, so there's obviously this gap that you're seeing. You're trying to, you come from this space where obviously in the TradFi world, transaction speeds are significantly faster here, and everyone is like trying to get as close to they can to bare metal and near the exchanges themselves. What made you want to start like an actual layer one, and what was the landscape that you were looking at when you started it?
It seemed like a really fun challenge. It seemed like it was a relevant challenge to some of the skills that we had, if not directly, like we hadn't directly built a blockchain before, but we had directly built other systems that had to be really performant. And um, yeah, we had turned the screws, so to speak, to get latencies, tick to trade latencies down from 10 microseconds to a fraction of a microsecond. And so I think it's like the mix of like experience and then confidence and knowing like, okay, if I'm thrown into a jungle, like because I'm used to like wandering around and things kind of like this, if I'm thrown into this scenario, I can, and not just me, but like uh, co-founders and then the team that we can build, we will be able to make meaningful progress, especially given what we know the state of the art is right now.
Right. And you were taking basically like, I mean, in traditional distributed compute, you've got horizontal scaling, you've got vertical scaling, and you were kind of taking these same approaches that were being used kind of in the traditional distributed computing space into the blockchain space, which has all of its own complexities. Now, obviously, there's like a technical mode here. This is a hard thing to do, but also in blockchain, most technology is open. I guess like what are your thoughts on how strong technical moats actually can survive within blockchain, or do you need more than that? Is it like this continued innovation, or how quickly can others kind of imitate?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think one that's fundamentally not completely solved or completely known. I think that brand is incredibly important in crypto, and the technology that we build is an input into that brand. And the brand then is an input into some of the network effects that start to accumulate within, a blockchain is like a distributed system with a bunch of nodes that are all in sync with each other, that all have the same state. And then the value of that shared global state is all of the integrations, all of the users that have balances on chain in that one shared global state, all of their user habits, the user interfaces, whether that's wallets or websites or mobile apps. All of that is all kind of like tied together as one big ball of wax.
Right. These are
And
your network effects, so to speak.
exactly, yeah. And it's not like, there's no formula, but I think instinct would all suggest to us that there are a lot of things that are kind of like building a snowball. Like there's the technology, and we're making the technology better all the time, shipping new features that unlock new capabilities for developers. That results in new applications that some of which become killer apps that actually meaningfully bring on a bunch of new users. And then the new users are trying that app, but then they're also trying out other apps due to a well-designed interface for discovering new things that are in the same environment. And then that results in more, um, I guess, like, just mainstream awareness of the ecosystem and the apps and the project, which then is like, ties into some of the mimetic aspects of, like money is a meme, currency is a meme. So in some senses, like it builds mind share, which then, has a mimetic effect. So it's all really tied together. It's really hard to,
It's creating this
attribute.
flywheel, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to tie to one specific thing, but I think our instincts are correct about, what things are directionally helpful and what are not. And then for any team that's building this space, it's about like having running a lot of experiments, getting data, and then reacting to the data.
Right. And so, like, I love this idea of this flywheel where you build like a technology which lets you do net new things theoretically. You get the people to build those things, they get the users, and then kind of you build the brand around both the technology itself and that ecosystem, and then kind of it flywheels. How did you think about what those initial use cases would be? Were you really focused on kind of your background of like high frequency trading, and was that the core impetus for like Monad is going to be the place for high frequency trading, or was it more broadly like we're going to build just the fastest layer one, and whatever people want to build on that, they can build on it.
Our understanding of what people want and the specific use cases has, of course, grown over time. But in the early days, we did feel pretty strongly that trading is something that we're activity we're really familiar with, and also an activity that really didn't fit very well on Ethereum at the time because if you have a normal exchange, like in the outside of the crypto space, all exchanges are order book exchanges. Like you don't even have to say it's an order book exchange, it's just an exchange. Because why would you build it any other way? And any order book exchange would be prohibitively expensive on Ethereum, and even prohibitively expensive on layer twos today, where if every update is still like a cent, then that's still not very good because in a lot of markets, the new order to fill ratio, or like the number of messages that a HFT trader will send relative to the number of fills that they will get, is somewhere between 10 to 1 and 100 to 1. So that means that if it's a cent
Yeah.
each time you make one of those submissions or cancels, multiply by 10 or multiply by 100, that's like just a fixed cost of maintaining that liquidity. So it makes the spreads wider, everything gets priced in, and then with wider spreads, then that inhibits trading activity and price discovery from happening.
Right. Uh, I want to go back to kind of your story with Monad, but you said something that I just wanted to like pick on real quick, which was what people wanted then isn't what people want now. Curious, what do you think people want now?
I think that the fundamental thing is still the same, which is that from a pure like personal finance is a broad category of things that people want, that adds a lot of value, and especially depending on where people are, it might be actually life changing for them. So one area that has become more clear in the public eye as being really important, but something that we've believed in for a long time, is the importance of blockchain for payments and um, enabling people who maybe don't have access to good financial tools right now, or who can't open a bank right now, or who open a bank and then find out that every time they do a withdrawal, they get charged like 2% or some like crazy amounts like that. Giving them access to um, efficient financial tools that are borderless, that anyone can access, is actually extremely impactful. And it's not just the tools, but also literally giving them access to dollars so they can hold their net worth in dollars instead of a currency that's inflating at like 20 or 30% per year. That's massive. Like they don't even need to earn yield on them. If you tell them like, not only can you hold dollars, but you can earn 4% on the dollars, that's amazing. But
Yeah.
avoiding the inflation, like that's huge. And then facilitating cross-border payments so that people who are in a developing nation can find a job like in another country and get paid seamlessly. Like these are extremely important. We've believed in this for a long time, and now there's a lot more focus on payments and stable coins, which I think is quite exciting.
Yeah, there's been a ton of growth. It's, I mean, arguably outside of gambling, payments and stable coins are the only things that really have had product market fit in blockchain because there's been such a great need, especially kind of in the international scale. All right, well, let's take a step back kind of to when you were raising pre-seed and seed capital. Would love to like hear a little bit about what were the milestones that you thought you needed to hit and the people on the team when you were at the pre-seed stage and at the seed stage to kind of give confidence both to the team and the market and your investors that they should continue supporting kind of this vision that you had.
Yeah, I mean, pre-seed funding is really about um, demonstrating a clear vision. Sorry, so like when I think about the criteria um, that I think about, like when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, which is a big part of my day actually nowadays, it is product, it's market, and it's the founding team's inherent capabilities. Like those would be the three criteria. So product is like, what have you shipped so far? Like what proof do we have? Like when we try the product, like how addictive is it? How well designed is it? That's like everyone can understand that. Market is about like, what we think the business model is, how credibly they can get to um, certain revenue milestones, how quickly they can get to profitable, and just a belief about what that, the overall size of that market is. And then the founders themselves or the founding team themselves, it's really about judging their intrinsic capabilities as well as their capacity to grow, um, which is reflected by the product and then their choice of the market and their go-to-market plan.
Right.
And I would say that pre-seed, for us, like building an entire layer one from scratch, like you're not going to have the layer one from scratch ready to go at the time of raising pre-seed. Um, so at that point, it was really for our investors, like a bet on the team, as well as like the way that how clearly we could describe the specific innovations and why they sort of like stack on top of each other to result in a massive performance improvement, and then our intuition about how to build a community and how to build an economy and kickstart an economy from scratch, which admittedly was like a lot more, a lot less developed than it is now.
Right. And I guess like how did that shift as you moved on to seed?
Um, yeah, I mean, even for layer ones, like because it's such a big project, depending on how you define seed, Monad BFT, which is a uh, like legitimately significant innovation in the space of BFT consensus, offering properties that are not seen in other BFT algorithms. Like that had not been figured out by the time we were raising our seed. So there are like definitely pieces that were still like, pencil in, like we know we need to figure this out. We know we need a consensus mechanism that can carry enough transaction throughput to then keep up with this execution system that we built. But we still have like proof of we can execute, like we built this execution system. It's really performant. And
So
then just like incremental.
technical milestones that you guys were had accomplished, and then kind of a path for the continued ones. And I guess like when did you think it was necessary to start building the community side of things?
That's a good question. We started building the community quite early, actually. We opened our community Discord on November 1st, 2022. So like 2.5 years ago. And I think people often debate about whether this is the right move or not, because I think the conventional wisdom is that you should start quote unquote marketing like much closer to the live date of the product. That way people don't become fatigued with hearing about the product and just be like, I already heard about this, like I'm not interested anymore. And I think that's totally fair. What I would say in response, though, is that marketing is one thing, but building a community is another. And if building a community in a really thoughtful way where we try to add as much value as we can to the community, um, then it's fine to start building the community much earlier. And in fact, it has given us a lot of strength and in my opinion, like helped us, made it easier for us to fundraise, made it easier for us to build more momentum because of the incredible power of the Monad community. Um, and,
And,
and that,
sorry, go ahead.
and I was just going to say, because to your point earlier, like when we first raised money, like the investors did not know like whether we could cobble together a coherent go-to-market plan. So then the community that we built ended up becoming the best proof of that. We talk a lot about shipping and how like, yeah, milestones are what unlocks more capital so that then you can keep building. And the milestones are just driven by shipping product. Like in the same way, I would sort of argue like we were a shipping community. We were proving like we can do this. We can um, but also the way that the community is the reason the community grew, I think, was because our team was really thoughtful about how to add value to the community. And it's not just like, okay, come up with a bunch of quests and ask people to write Twitter threads about why Monad is so great. And then if you do that, then we'll have some point system and then like that'll motivate people because the reality is like that would not motivate people for 2.5 years. The thing that keeps people coming back is the relationships they built in the community, the opportunities for taking on leadership opportunities, the opportunities to like get jobs in the Monad ecosystem, and the opportunity to have an audience for their creativity. And we have great writers, we have great artists, we have great singers, we have people who are just passionate about stuff and they want to be part of something bigger and they want the opportunity to like yeah, just like take ownership and do something well and then get recognized for it. And now that's sort of like, as we're now right before mainnet, now that's sort of translated into this really powerful group of people that I think will be really influential in crypto in the next couple of years. But that was forged through all of the effort that they
All
put
these
in.
years.
Yeah.
And as like community, like it's a broad word. I guess would love to dig a little deeper into like when you were first starting building the community. Were you focused more on developers specifically? Were you focused more on kind of people that are just in general like passionate about blockchain or the retail side of things? Were you focused on who the users of the developers might be? Like, how did you think about kind of who to spend time with more and to cultivate more?
The thing that's really special about crypto is that anyone can actually have a huge impact on the success of a project. I think that just having like one really passionate community member who is really rooting for the team's success and is like that really has actually a huge impact on the just like the way that the entire team feels and the feeling of like having sort of moral support. And I think that that can come from anyone. It doesn't have to be like someone who's a developer. So I do feel like in the early days, the conventional wisdom of like just talk to developers might not be right because anyone can actually make a huge difference and realizing that and then treating people with the requisite respect for their influence like on the success of the project can really pay back in spades.
Okay, so like you were building this in 22, 23. You're heading to mainnet very, very shortly. How do you think the ecosystem has shifted? We have a ton more, the L1 and L2 space is much more crowded. We have a ton of like high performance chains. I guess more broadly speaking, do you think when you're looking to build today, things are different and how are they different, right? How can a new team that's building infrastructure differentiate themselves? How can they think about building community?
Well, it really has to come from believing in the product oneself. So for me, I do believe strongly that decentralization matters. I think that we can we can only meaningfully shift the world. We can only meaningfully shift the patterns of global finance, global commerce, um, into blockchain if we have a credibly neutral base layer that spans borders. Like one of the things I'm really excited about is the growth of this financial system that does not have borders, that allows people, regardless of where they live, to transact with other people, regardless of where they are. Um, I think that opens up a ton of opportunities for people. And a borderless financial system cannot exist on a centralized server. Like it just doesn't make sense. The
Right.
server would be in one jurisdiction. So for me personally, I do feel that even though the narrative right now in crypto Twitter might be that, all chains are the same, everything is just like I just interact with the RPC API and I submit ETH_send transaction, and then my transaction like comes back at some point. Like that's all just the same no matter what. I disagree with that, and I think that decentralization does really matter. And our team is actually building technology that enables, that decentralization to scale to the level of scale that we all want to see in the crypto space. So that's like why I have inner confidence. And I think that that is also like a community is reliant on also having that inner confidence in the mission, and the mission being like something that matters, something that's really important.
So is that like I guess like if I think of the broadly speaking the realm of high performance chains, you've got like other L1s, Solana, etc. You've got like L2s that are high performance, Mega ETH, Arbitrum, etc. So like is the argument against the layer twos that they're not really decentralized? Is the argument against Solana? Like how do you guys win, and how do you think about how that shifts your strategy in terms of making sure that Monad wins?
Right. I think that there are a lot of applications that do ultimately, like at the end of the day, depend on decentralization, that do depend on borderless asset ledgers. Um, and then I think beyond that, it's also just like we know what we're building for, and we know that what we're doing is differentiated. There may be 1,000 layer twos out there that, and I don't want to like bash on layer twos either. Like they're fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just think for the application of decentralized asset ledger that's borderless, that enables payments and um, remittances and like employment contracts, all of that, that really does depend on decentralization. And then that gives a sort of like core value prop, like a core to this like on-chain economy. Everything else can kind of like, result from that. And maybe there's trading venues, or maybe there's like video games or something that don't have to be on a decentralized layer one. But on the other hand, like if they can fit on a decentralized layer one, there are a lot of network effects from all being in the same shared global state. So I think in terms of your question is kind of one about like how do you stand
Like,
out in a
like
sea
what?
of competition, or like how do you
Yeah.
feel about competition? And I would say competition is great. Competition sharpens the steel. Like it's fun. It's like it means we go out every day and we have to compete to offer the best developer experience, the best set of infrastructure integrations. Like we have to keep pushing the needle. We have to keep innovating. But I think we know our core strength, and our core strength is enabling decentralization to scale.
Yeah, and actually, I think you touched upon it very well. It was less like, okay, how do you compete against everyone else, but more like, where do you compete against everyone else? And there are specific properties that kind of Monad exhibits, and one of the core ones that you're kind of iterating here is decentralization. That leads one to like, okay, well, what are the use cases that actually care about this? Because for some use cases, it won't be as important. Just like high throughput chains aren't as important for some use cases. So this is very much kind of right, this open financial economy that's driven specifically by the fact that this is a censorship resistant, permissionless, kind of decentralized, high throughput layer one. Um, okay, thinking back through kind of, your journey, what are some of the biggest things that kind of uh, uh, not that you wish you did differently, but lessons learned, I guess, on the technical side, and or on the business side from a go-to-market perspective.
Yeah. I think that yeah, on the technical side, it's hard to say because initially there was a lot of research that we did just around like, where are the bottlenecks? How much performance can we get out of an SSD? Like if we assume that we roll our own database as opposed to using other systems. And ultimately, we did choose the hard road of building our own database. I would still do that again. And it like sort of gives us a unique edge. But it was a huge effort, like a 2 year effort from two engineers to build this database from scratch for storing Ethereum Merkle tree data. Um, I guess there is a parallel universe where maybe we rolled that out later, that wasn't like something that was a requirement for mainnet, and then we just sort of like upgraded over time. I think that maybe having like that really clearly defined roadmap and then A/B testing like different permutations of that, where some things are pushed to after mainnet might have been nice. Um, and that aligns with the theme of like just incremental shipping is what we tell everyone. Like when we're talking to people that are building ambitious apps, we're like, that's awesome, but build the first version, get it out there, like just get people trying it. And while building a L1 blockchain is like building a rocket ship, there's still like, incremental ways to do things.
Right. And I guess like when you launched that first DevNet, what were you like? What were people doing on it? What were you trying to get people to do on it?
Um,
Or I guess
Initially,
the
it was
DevNet probably
just,
wasn't even
yeah, just establishing correctness. So the good thing about conforming to all the same standards that exist in Ethereum is we just replay the history of Ethereum and make sure that the Merkle root always matches. The Merkle root's actually a really convenient way of like
yeah, like for like.
testing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
How did that shift as you moved on to test nets and are kind of like testing for performance?
I think like the focus area, the Sauron's eye, I guess, like goes outward a little bit from the pure execution or like pure blockchain aspect to the RPC layer. So I think of a blockchain as being like an inner layer, which is the validators like producing blocks on every slot, coming to consensus, achieving agreement about shared global state. And then the RPCs are like a ring around that needs to handle many multiples of the throughput of the chain itself in order to respond to a bunch of like front ends that are making ETH call requests all the time to like look up state from Uniswap pool or anything else really. We saw in the first days of testnet that with a transaction throughput of 10 to 15 million transactions per day, we were seeing a billion requests per day on the RPC, which is fine because there's like a lot, each RPC request is just served by one node, whereas a transaction has to be processed by every node. Um, so as long as we have like 100 RPC servers, it's still like kind of fair. But we didn't on day one. And then there were also a lot of tunings to make the RPC layer like more performant.
Sweet. Right.
So there's that. And then the other thing I would say is that, you know, now that we're in EIP 7702 land with Ethereum and um, there's like more complex interactions with bundlers and relayers. And I just think that's like now where the focus is shifted a little bit more. Or it's not that there isn't also focus on the core blockchain performance and rolling out improvements to the BFT consensus mechanism and so on. But there's just like a more expansive set of things that we're worrying about now.
Okay, well, I would love to like double click on that. Like, okay, so what are the things that are of priority now that you're about to go to mainnet?
Um, so the test net has been live for about 5 months. It is a almost feature complete uh, mainnet blockchain. There's a couple of things that are still missing, including staking, um, EIP 7702 compatibility. There's a new consensus mechanism that's uh, going to be rolled out very soon, described in this paper that was published, I believe, in February, which enables fork resistant or tail fork resistant pipelined hot stuff consensus. It's really cool. Actually, like I was saying this before, but like unironically, actually expanding the capabilities of BFT consensus. So that's going to go live. These are things that still need to get rolled out to the test net, and then audits need to complete before we launch the mainnet.
Right. So okay. So the feature sets themselves, the kind of core performance capabilities, as well as the properties that are important to you in terms of decentralization and kind of this fork resistant consensus. But also kind of it seems like the go-to-market side of things of fitting into the ecosystem itself, which is the EIP 7702 and the staking side of things, and so really making sure that you fit into the broader ecosystem, and it's easy for people to come on board and to play nice with Monad. Now, when you think about applications, like you guys have a few hundred applications I saw like on the Monad site. Probably a healthy number of those are in the kind of DeFi RWA slash prediction market side of things, which kind of tracks with high frequency trading. Um, how much do you care that applications kind of are front and center Monad specific versus like on multiple chains? Like, is Monad another chain? And how do you want app developers to think about that? Or do you want Monad to be like the first and only chain that they're on?
Monad is really a new experience. Um, like there hasn't been a EVM layer one that is processing 1 billion gas per second. Um, there hasn't been a EVM layer one with a tenth of a cent estimated transaction fees for like, say, a Uniswap V2 swap. So it is really fundamentally new, and that I think that poses a great new opportunity for both existing apps that are on different chains to launch on Monad and just take advantage of the opportunity of the new environment and the new capabilities and the new pricing and so on that results from that. I think there are a lot of on-chain games that can just benefit from much lower fees. We're definitely seeing some good migration there. So not all DeFi apps, like also non-DeFi apps
Yeah,
that
you've got,
are,
you've got social gaming and a good healthy number of NFTs as well, if I recall.
yeah.
Uh,
But I think your other question is really about, like, from a strategy perspective, are we prioritizing, um,
the new and exclusive or the promiscuous.
yeah, I don't know. I just think that every founder needs to do what's best for the success of um, their startup. And we think that for the teams that are waiting for the Monad launch, we really appreciate the wait that they've been willing to make, but also they're also like sharpening their knives, like they're making their product better with every week and every month. And our team is trying to give them a lot of really candid feedback and put them in front of a bunch of users and help sharpen that so that they are really, really powerful, like when mainnet launches. I think we don't want to, yeah, I think it's just like creating an environment where it's optimal both for apps that exist already and for apps that have been exclusive and waiting to just make the most of a really big environment when things go
And,
live.
and to take advantage of, I think as you mentioned earlier, like you are the first kind of EVM layer one that does have this throughput, finality, block times, etc. So you enable something that people couldn't do before. So yes, it's better for kind of all of these existing applications, but also you want the people that couldn't build things before to come to you to build it. Um, as you look towards kind of your token launch, we're in a very interesting space from kind of a greater market perspective. There's a ton of focus on kind of finance moving on chain. There's like this, uh, you know, uh, hype and FUD on AI on blockchain and kind of what that can do. We've had a crap ton of tokens. There's been a lot of excitement, but there's also like a limited amount of liquidity. I guess like how do you think about um, the current environment within which you're going to be launching a token, many of the token launches, right? There's different debates whether you should launch at a high FTV or whether you should launch at a more moderate and kind of bring your community with you. I guess like how do you view the specific environment now? Do you feel like there is enough liquidity for good projects to succeed, or is it something where because you guys are really strong. It's more zero sum, but you guys will win because you actually are offering something that's meaningfully different versus many of the other chains that are launching that perhaps won't be.
Well, I think the first thing to point out is that Ethereum got to a really high market cap in 2021 because there was actually substantial fee revenue. Um, the PE ratio was still like super high, but it was a $300 billion protocol in 2021 with about $3 billion of fee revenue per year. So a PE ratio of 100 to 1, which is, fair for like on the high end, but like fair for a really
Growing
fast
tech.
growing, yeah, company. And Solana in 2024 had, also had really high revenue that, um, a lot of it came from, people trading and people submitting like priority fees in the local fee markets to express their ordering preferences. But same thing, like over $1 billion of fee revenue, and that justifies the over $100 billion market cap of Solana. So I think at the end of the day, like there's not really you can't defy gravity. Like gravity is, puts everyone like at the right place where they should be, um, and that's how it should be. So I actually view the current market as healthier than where it was like 6 months ago or 12 months ago. Um, Not financial advice, of course, just a thought, but like at the end of the day, any protocol has to deliver value to end users and generate revenue. And, what we've seen so far is that the business models that do work are people, they're driven by apps that people want to use. They're driven by trading opportunity, like when people want to trade, facilitating that. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the current environment. If anything, there's probably just, you know, like the chains that had no revenue at all that had really high market caps were just like a transient, or perhaps like, a lot of the supply was actually like on a wallet that private keys were lost forever, something like that. So I think it's everything is returning to health. And yes, to your earlier question, it's a competitive market, and we have to go out and outcompete.
I love this. So in the world of signal to noise, signal is now being much more appreciated rather than noise, so to speak. And if you have real revenues, then you're able to kind of command the requisite valuations, and if it is more hype driven, then you can. Which you're right, it hasn't always been the case with blockchain, especially in the last few years. Um, so okay,
There's
we've
a,
got. Sorry, go ahead.
I will just say also there, there's a such a big world out there. Like there's 8 billion people. You can like solve a problem for 1 billion of them and generate $1 per person, and you've generated $1 billion in revenue. So, like, and maybe that's like, kind of flippant to say, oh yeah, just solve a problem for 1 billion people, and actually get all billion to use that. But my point is just that we're still just sort of like the tip of the iceberg in terms of adoption, and um, there's plenty of opportunity out there. It's not about like trying to like scrap little bits of market share from other competitor blockchains. It's about delivering, like solving problems for normal people and getting many more people to use the services that are being built.
It's building an actual business and or like value creation machine for actual people and users, which I think for much of blockchain's history was actually quite challenging because of many of the technical limitations you spoke of around performance and cost and latency, and now it is not. So it's a rubber meets the road sort of thing. I want to open up to anyone on the chat that has questions. Feel free to like type a question or raise your hand. If not, I've got more questions that I can ask Keone as well. Jason, I see you asked about kind of early community building, and you were asking about how do you build the initial builder and partner community, particularly when there are early stage, when there are more users and activity on other chains that you have to compete with, and I guess especially today when there's a lot more competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, crypto is still very open to newcomers. Like it's not all about the incumbents. People are always excited to try new things. I think communicating clearly about your vision and communicating clearly about the overall like problem space that you're solving, that you're operating in, as well as like maybe some insights about why the thing you're building is actually differentiated. Like that really helps you stand out. And I do think that that does garner a lot of interest from both community members and prospective partners. I guess also it depends to what extent you really need partners, like in the early days. Of course, that depends a lot on the business model, but um, there's a lot of like BD in crypto, which is, logo and other logo announcing a partnership. But I think that the ones that those don't really actually move the needle that much. So maybe it might be good for a tiny bit of social credibility, but there are also many other ways to build social credibility. So I would say like if there really is synergy in a particular partner working with you, then they would be motivated by that synergy. And maybe you have to put in more elbow grease to ship something that like, starts solving problems for that partnership. But I wouldn't think that like earliness is really an impediment to building partnerships that are actually impactful for the business.
Right. I guess you just have to be more specific about what it is that who you're building for and what your advantage is there.
Yeah.
Uh, while we wait, if there are other questions, kind of what are you most excited about in the blockchain ecosystem today? What other projects or innovations or things that you've seen?
I mean, I'm just excited to see blockchain scale to a much bigger set of users. I think that, for every 100 Coinbase users, there's probably like 2 or 3 people that have a crypto wallet. It's really low. So the first step is just like converting all of those people to actually try the blockchain, try apps, try using it for personal finance, try yield farming. Um, I know
A-
it's kind of like a
As
dumb
you think
answer,
about
but
that, I mean, you've built kind of really great, powerful infrastructure, but at the end of the day, like regular people will come on chain because of an easy user experience. What do you think will help drive that? Is that just applications in general, or are there specific use cases? Like payments, people did it because there was no other choice, so it forced them to. But beyond just kind of cross-border payments.
mhm. Yeah, I think that we're definitely all under indexing on mobile. Like that, to me, it feels like an area where logically we understand that it's very important. We all understand it's really super important. Like most people consume most of their TikTok time on, or all of it on mobile, not on desktop. Like people use their mobile mostly for leisure, and we're targeting like a leisure segment. So why would we not? Why would every app not be mobile first? And there's like specific annoying reasons why that's the case. But I think like there's a huge edge in like going and focusing on that annoying thing first, rather than being like, yeah, it's like a thing that doesn't sound very fun, so I'm not going to work on it yet. I will later, because the later can always translate to still later. And yeah, I feel like mobile is a no-brainer.
Okay, so we'd love to like double click on that as well. Great segue. Um, Within mobile specifically, where do you think is an exciting place for people to build? Like what types of use cases, and especially even on Monad, if they wanted to build applications or if they wanted to build kind of infrastructure, where do you think are the good opportunities today?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually just announced an acquisition today. So the Monad Foundation acquired Portal, which is a stablecoin infrastructure provider that provides MPC wallets and SDKs um, for enabling non-crypto companies to very easily add crypto and add stablecoins to their existing web and mobile apps. So it's definitely like super topical. That business will continue to be a standalone business, although a couple of members of that team have transitioned to be directly part of the Monad Foundation team. But standalone business that's really focused on enabling the fat tail and the long tail of Web 2 companies to start using crypto and stable coins. But that's a huge space. And um, yeah, I just continue to think that enabling any app that currently accepts payments right now using Apple Pay or however people get money in right now, wiring those with stable coins, wiring those for crypto payments is immediately a huge unlock. And then I think also with the recent judgment on the Apple versus Epic Games lawsuit. It's actually, I think it's Epic Games, correct me if I'm wrong. But that's also a huge unlock for people to be able to accept crypto payments in app.
Right. Okay, so especially I guess with the regulatory shift in the US, like it is no longer illegal to be building in blockchains. So like that opens up an entire design space for how do we bring Web 2 and integrate between Web 2 and these kind of legacy sectors, specifically as it revolves around payments and other on chain. And you're right, that certainly is a huge space. It's one that I think many blockchain folks might struggle with because we tend to often be we over-index on our technical research and blockchain capabilities and less so on our kind of real-world sector experience. But the that intersection is certainly extremely valuable, especially as exemplified by your recent acquisition. Um,
Yeah, I also just feel like there's this group is probably extremely, as you said, extremely technically savvy, really smart, can probably solve any problem, any technical problem. So it's actually really good to just go talk to, you know, nor normal, like normal people that use apps on their phone that probably don't know anything about crypto and just talk to them and be like, what, even asking just really dumb questions like what would say that you wanted to invest in cryptocurrency, like how would you do that right now? And like they don't know how to do that right now. So they would just go to Coinbase. Like the the point is that I think like trying to approach the problem from the other side, or rather to solve the problem that you're thinking I will solve at the end of my build, trying to solve that at the beginning of the build can be um, quite important actually, because then you'll first of all solve a hard problem or like get a lot of insights into a hard problem and that'll shape the solution rather than having to try to retrofit this later.
So I like this a lot, which is like really understanding. It is almost like a design thinking, like really understanding, like okay, well, what are the actual pains and interests of the broader market, not just the crypto market, and trying to build for them. I guess the caveat question of that with respect to Monad is like, does that market actually care about things like decentralization, or do they just care that things work and that we're creating these like composable ecosystems that are more open to some degree?
Clearly, end users don't have that level of depth of knowledge. What they would experience is a difference in the set of apps that exist, the set of integrations, the set of Web 2 integrations. And I think it's actually more from the integrator's point of view that there's like this network effect that ultimately at its core is driven by like real decentralization, real like borderless asset ledgers that then like has this downstream effect of a bigger ecosystem with more integrations and a bigger network effect.
Awesome. Well, we're just hitting time. Keone, thank you. This was an awesome discussion. Really appreciate kind of your thoughts and insight, and you've given me a little bit of hope and optimism with respect to kind of where we sit in today's blockchain ecosystem. I agree with you. It's good to be in a place where there's more signal than noise, and super excited for the Monad launch.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be great. And not just Mana, just in general. Like crypto is going to be, it's going to grow a lot, and it's our job just to go try to make it grow as quickly as possible.
Hells yeah. Awesome. All right. Have a good afternoon, everyone.